Our third presenter is Professor Brenda DelMaramo, who's a lecturer in our English department, and she works extensively with our international students. She teaches the English for Speakers of Other Languages courses and enjoys advising the exchange students on their courses and major requirements. These students work very well with Professor DelMaramo and return to their native countries with an appreciation for and an understanding of the American culture and a respect and love for their home countries. Broadening our horizons a bit now will be Professor DelMaramo and her talk titled Living the Global Village at Thiel. Professor DelMaramo.
Thank you, Mary Teresa. Many of you received cards. In an ideal universe, I would have been able to gather those a little earlier, but I'm just really trying to solicit questions that you might have in your, prompted by your interactions with international students on campus. Certainly I'm open to questions ranging from administrative kinds of things, but more the conversations and interactions that you have on a daily basis. If you want to ask a question and you didn't receive a card, you can always ask later, or I can give you a card. As Mary Teresa said, I have been working with our international students really for the past 4 years, specifically in our English for Speakers of Other Languages classes. Every semester there are 3 classes. There are one for reading, one for speaking and listening, and one for really writing, and I combine grammar in that. In the spring, there's another set of 3 classes that aren't so much in a sequence as they are kind of companion classes because of the population, the international student population we have at Thiel. Just to give you a few demographics, I don't know when our first international students arrived at Thiel. Historically, I know that in the 25 years that I've been at Thiel, we have always had an international student program of some kind. And certainly those students who come are here on their student visas. They're here sometimes here as students who are wanting to earn a 4-year bachelor's degree from Thiel. But then about 4 years ago, 4 years ago especially, we really ramped up the exchange student program. And so we have students coming from 3 different universities in South Korea, specifically in Seoul. And those students are here only for 1 semester or maybe 2 semesters. And so if you feel like you're seeing some students for a while and then they're gone, that's part of the reason for that. But let me give you a little background and then I'll look at your questions. And I really want to answer questions that you really have, rather than lay on you lots of extra information. The title of my talk is Living the Global Village at Thiel. That was a title that I created for a first-year seminar that I taught last fall, where I had a class, a 1-credit class, where half the students were domestic American students and half were international students who chose to join. And I think we had a pretty fantastic time. It was not so much an academic class as it was a cultural exchange class. And so we had American students learning how to master chopsticks, since the bulk of our international students are from Asian countries. The Asian students felt very relieved when I pulled out the chopsticks for class. The American students went, I have no idea what to do with this. And so we practiced with things like potato chips. We had a little cultural blending. But I chose the title again, Living the Global Village at Thiel, because Thiel is a place where people come from lots of places. And it is an environment where there is a mixing of people with lots of different backgrounds. Whether you're from Pittsburgh or Toledo, you still have different backgrounds. And what I'm hoping to do is really primarily aimed at us, those of us who were born and raised in the United States, that to have a growing awareness of the desire that international students have to be here, the openness that they have to come and study here, the courage that they have to take classes in a language that is not their first language, the willingness that they have to make friends, my goal again is to help maybe bridge the gap, increase awareness, and make Thiel every semester more of that global village where international students feel welcome, American students feel like they are able to reach out, ask questions, not be afraid of somebody because maybe they don't understand you the first time and you don't understand them the first time. So here's some background and then I'll look at the questions. We have a total on campus of 52 international students presently. That's 5% of our student population. 22 of those are registered as degree-seeking students. They're here. Some of them have transferred college credits already. Some of them start right after their graduation from high school, either in their home countries or some other English-speaking country. Many of them have studied in other English-speaking countries. I can think of Ireland and New Zealand, Australia. There is that deep desire, at least on the part of their parents, if not them, but to learn English and to make that part of who they are. We have 30 exchange students this semester, the bulk of whom will be here only 8 more weeks. And so if that student down the hall is from South Korea, then maybe you need to find out, and you haven't said hello to them yet, then maybe you want to, because chances are this is their experience in the United States, or at least at Thiel. We have 1 student from Belarus, 1 from Pakistan, 1 from Russia, 1 from Taiwan, 13 from Japan, 6 from China, and 29 from South Korea. The intention had been that Shannon Reish from the Office of International Student Affairs would be here to join me, but she had to be away today. She's actually the director of the International Student Affairs program, but really her job entails the student life end of what goes on. She coordinates conversation groups and conversation leaders, e-pals, where there's this exchange of emails between incoming international students and current students. She handles the visas and a lot of the immigration things that have to happen there, or at least she knows about them. But what I want to get to are things that you're concerned about, things that maybe you've been confused by or have questions about. Let me look through them quickly. I have a question on the back. Let me deal with this one. This one is general enough. Somebody put frustrations on there. What are the major concerns that international students identify about their being at Thiel? And what elements of spending time at Thiel do international students most frequently identify with? Some of the major concerns that I've heard, now I advise some students, I don't advise all of them. As soon as we're, get the ones who require some extra English language instruction, when we're able to get them into regular classes, we do that. Some students, international students, I help register, but after that, I really don't see them. I'm not an advisor for all of them. They're advised within their majors. They are not treated separately, only when that English language support is needed. But major concerns, minor concerns, let me get at that. Sometimes things that affect students who are here anyway. Transportation. You know, when you want to go somewhere and do something, it's difficult. The shuttle only goes so many places. There are only so many things to do on campus. You can only walk so far. I know of an international student who bought a bicycle and had it delivered to Thiel so that he could ride places over the summer. But it is a frustration. If they need to get to the airport, they have to pay for the transportation there and then the shuttle to return, and that can actually be very costly. And like most of college students, they're concerned about the cost involved. Some of the other things, the adjustment from a major city like Seoul or Tokyo to Greenville. You know, millions of people to 5,000 of your closest friends, you know. I like Greenville because I can go to the bank and I can talk to the people that I know, or I see people in Giant Eagle and Walmart that I know, and there's that sense of community. That's an adjustment for them, whether it's positive or negative, really depends on the student and how their attitude in approaching that. But major concerns about being at Thiel, they miss food that's familiar. I know that I've had several students comment that they just don't even bother to eat in the cafeteria at this point. Of course, there may be some American students who are saying, yeah, I don't eat in the cafeteria either. But to be able to have things familiar, they're 24 hours a day, they're in a non-home environment. And more so than our incoming freshmen, right? Incoming American freshmen. And so they're looking, I think, often for those things that make them have that essence of home. Homesickness, maybe. But the language is obviously the big thing. They vary in their English language ability. There are admission standards, and we meet those admission standards, but they vary greatly in their English language ability. And so the frustration of having to kind of mentally translate, and by the time they form something they want to say, the conversation or the discussion has gone elsewhere. And I always encourage my students, don't let anybody think that because you're quiet that you don't know what's going on. You know, don't be afraid to be the first to speak up. It is not rude to speak in a discussion group. And don't necessarily wait for the American students to speak either, because they don't like to speak up in discussion groups either. So, I mean, the concerns are very close by and intimate. Are they worried about economics in the United States? No. You know, they're worried about living in the dorms, getting along, learning more English, and trying to make it academically, because they are taking classes for grades, and it does matter. So I hope that helps. The elements of spending time that they do identify with, I think some of them do adjust to and really like the small college feel, because there are fewer distractions. They can study more, and some of them, you You know, when they're out on the quad at night, when it's starry, some of them don't get to see the stars in their home cities, just like, you know, some of us might not. You know, that it gives them a different perspective. They appreciate the natural beauty. Those who, you know, are kind of into that thing, those who want to shop, you know, maybe not so much, but the ones who are open to it, okay? And I'm short on time. Let me look real quickly. What to do in lecture classes when they don't understand 90% of what I'm saying? That's a faculty question, and it is a concern. And it also applies to any conversation. Be aware of how you speak. Be aware that we often learn words together without pauses or spaces. They have to listen. Be aware that we don't say going to. I'm going to stop now. I might if I was very careful, but what would we say? I'm going to stop now. And suddenly those two words get compressed together, slid together. And so just care in speaking and the language. And I've had to relearn this really over the last 4 years. Being a parent has helped me a lot because if you've ever parented young children, you know they don't always understand what you say. And you have to try multiple ways to communicate. And being available to listen to them because they have a difficult time expressing what they're concerned about or what their questions are. So a great deal of patience, I think, but take the time because they want to have deep conversations and they want to learn. And they're very hugely interesting and very brave young men and women. So if there are other questions, I know I didn't get to very many. I do need to stop, but my office is on the 3rd floor of Greenville Hall. I am there. Also Shannon Reish, her office is in the Student Life office. Both of us are available on a daily basis to either text or call or meet with face-to-face. If you've just got things that you don't understand or you have a question about whether you're a faculty member, a staff member, or a student regarding.
Brenda,